Hey everyone, welcome back to Interior Gardening. So today I'm going to go through quickly some dollar store hacks. So things that you can find actually in the gardening aisle at the dollar store, or things that you might see in other aisles that you would have no idea to even use in the garden. So the first thing I don't have on hand to show you, but just to give you an idea for seed saving and organization. So old CD, they have the little CD books. You can totally put your seeds in the sleeves, and this way you can flip through them like that. Another option for that is your baseball card or your hockey card holders. Same thing, they come in sleeves. I think they hold like 12 per sleeve, and you could put your seed packets in there, put them in a binder, and also flip through. So that's a really good way to organize your seeds on the cheap from the dollar store. Another way for seed organizing, or if you trade seeds or save your own seeds, you can get these little craft bags at the dollar store. They look like this, and you can write on the front of them with like a Sharpie, or you can get a sticky label, whatever you want, and put your seeds in there. I actually have an example here with seeds in them and how people do them. So you have your seeds in the bag, and then you can label it on the front. Like I said, some people just write with a Sharpie. Another thing for saving seeds that they have at the dollar store are these little, they're coin envelopes, I think, but you can tape them or like lick them on the back. I personally don't lick them because I don't want to like open them every time. But yeah, they have little coin envelopes there. You can put your seeds in there. Another great tool they have at the dollar store for just in terms of seeds and getting everything organized, notepads. I know that's like probably the stupidest thing, but really grab yourself a notepad if you don't want to spend. I do have a video on like garden journals you can get for cheap on Amazon for like $8. But if you're going super cheap and you're just starting out, a journal is a really good, like just a notebook from the dollar store is a good start. So that's good for seed saving. So if we're talking about seed starting, so they have a couple of really good options. They do sell these little peat pods now. So that's where you put your seed in the middle there. You put some water on it in your tray, and they actually expand. There are many seed starting pot options at the dollar store. So you've got your hard pots here, like that type of thing. They go as far as like having like little tinier seed pots. So inside here, you can't really see, but you've got these, like they're kind of like an egg carton material. So they're supposed to be biodegradable. They have that option. They have like your old school clay pots at the dollar store, if that's what you're interested in there. The only thing to watch for with these clay pots is there's no drainage holes on the bottom. So just being careful that if you know how to make drainage holes, or hopefully they already have them, because you're going to want to just be careful with that. But like they have so many options now. They have packs of these plastic ones. They're like $8 for $1. There's so many different ways that you can start seeds, like the containers to start seeds in at the dollar store. Speaking of, they now have, sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm in my greenhouse in here. They have these seed starting trays. So like as you can see, I don't know if you can see behind me, it comes the tray on the bottom, and then you have your lid on top. So you have two options. You can put the soil right directly on the bottom here with the lid on top and then transplant out, or you can do like I've done here on mine. Let me just pick it up for you so you can see. For your seed starting, you use the bottom tray, and then in the top you put these containers. So that's a good option there for seed starting. If you can't find these plastic ones, in an aisle that you wouldn't think is your kitchen aisle, go and grab yourself a cake pan with a lid, because that essentially does the exact same thing. And these are sometimes even cheaper. You can get them like 2 for $1. So if that fails, go ahead and grab yourself one of those. Another thing for seed starting that you can find is actually soil. So I grabbed, these are empty now, but these are 2 different types of soil, a potting mix that I found at the dollar store. Both of them are only, I believe, $1.25 because I got them at Dollar Tree. So you can actually now get soil, and I have it here. It's really not a bad, it's a nice light fluffy soil. These I actually got at the dollar store as well. It's just a cup in a bowl, and I use it to start my seeds in. So another seed trick, you can get now watering cans. I'm sure you know that. You can get those at the dollar store. You can get different size spray bottles. So what I personally do on mine, as you can see the top, it's probably backwards for you, but it does say peroxide. So I actually have a couple of different ones. If I came back here, this one just says regular water. So I use these when starting my seeds to spray on top to top water, just kind of mist, but I also use these different stuff inside when I am doing treatments on my plants. So out in the garden, for example, one just holds dish soap and water, and I use that to treat a number of different things, different pests and stuff like that in the garden. So those are great. Spray bottles are great. You can get, now in the garden section, they have different fleece options. So this one is a frost protection fleece. They now have shade cloth options in the dollar store. They also, if you wanted to use a shower curtain or one of those plastic tablecloths that you would get for like a party, you can use those. You can use them to either cover your crops or for some shade protection, but you can also use, in conjunction with a dollar store, a hula hoop. So this is a big old hula hoop. You cut this guy, and I am going to do actually a video on this year, so follow along if you're interested, but you cut these in half and essentially use the top of this as the top of your greenhouse, stick it in the ground, and then you use either like a plastic, so a shower curtain, or like I said, that tablecloth across the top of it, and it creates like a greenhouse. So that's going to be really cool. Watch for that. Other things you can get at the dollar store that are already in the garden aisle are clips. So these sell on Amazon. I watch people buy these on Amazon, but you can get them at the dollar store, and these are amazing. So they're like little clamp clips. You can use them to stake your stuff onto trellises or onto sticks. Speaking of trellises, I will link a video down below. I did a video on dollar store, and it's all dollar store different trellis ideas. I don't have them in front of me because I'm not out of my shed. But that video goes through different things all throughout the dollar store that you can use to trellis your stuff. So things like bamboo sticks, different pieces of fencing and stuff, tomato cages they now sell at the dollar store. So there are so many different options. Like I said, I'll link that below so you can take a look and kind of get an idea. Another thing they sell in the dollar store aisle are thermometers. This is great for either inside of your greenhouse, or if you don't have a thermometer outside, just to keep an eye on your temperature. Of course, different plants like different temperatures, and you'll know as you go. Popsicle sticks. These are good for plant labels. And of course, they would sell either your Sharpies or your pencils at the dollar store as well. But these are great for labeling not only your plants inside, but outside. They typically do only last one season, so do fair warning about that. But I mean, for $1, it doesn't really matter. And then, of course, your duct tape. I have duct tape over up here just to say for your winter sewing, or again, to label things or holding things together if you're in a pinch and you want to do it on the cheap, duct tape. These are those laundry baskets. Now, people can use these essentially as a protection for like birds, squirrels, pests from your plants. So if you've got your plant sitting there and it's getting eaten or whatever the case may be, you put this over top and essentially you are protecting your plants. Of course, obviously bugs can get through that, but the rain and the sun can still get that through that, and you're kind of protecting it from mice and stuff. My only caution for these is they will rust when continuously wet. It's going to take a while for them to rust, but just be careful. Using it kind of as a temporary solution and not a permanent solution, because eventually they will rust, and obviously that's not good for anybody. Pruners. They actually sell pruners at the dollar store now when I was in there. They're not going to be great. They're not going to last forever. They'll probably rust pretty quickly, but if you are a first-time gardener or just starting out, they have pruners. These baskets. Okay, so I actually use these when I am going to start my seeds. So right now, as you can see in behind me, I'm actually in my greenhouse. I've got my lights set up because I'm starting seeds. Now when these sprout up, they're going to be very, very tiny, and they're going to try and stretch towards that light and probably get leggy. That's what I found was happening a couple years ago. So I was using boxes in here to try and elevate these and get the little tiny plants when they're just little closer to the light. So I said, you know what, to save all these boxes, and to find boxes every year, it's just craziness. I'm going to go to the dollar store, spend a couple dollars, and get something that I can. So I turn these upside down, put my plants on top of here just until they start to get bigger. And then of course, once they get bigger, I remove these. But now I have these where they are nice and hard. I can get them wet or dirty. It's not going to matter. And now I can reuse them every year. Now there is ways you could reuse these in different ways in your garden. Obviously you can use it to hold things and organize things. You essentially could plant something in here if you wanted to. It's very pretty. I don't know if I would, because you don't know what the plastic's made out of and you don't want it leaching into your soil. But anyways, speaking of baskets, I'll just lift this up here to show you. I'm going to do a video this year about growing potatoes in a basket. You could grow other things in a basket too. So I got this from the dollar store, this laundry basket, and I am essentially going to put some soil in there and plant the plants heads through the holes. So that should be super fun. So other things you can get at the dollar store. So you can get, of course, so many different decorations, rocks, statues. I found these cute little garden markers this year. They're metal. They're out at Easter right now. It's a carrot. And of course, like, there's so many different metal options now. The dollar store is carrying wind chimes and wreaths to put her out in the garden. They have like signs like, again, this is going to be backwards for you, but you know, it says the garden is my happy place. They have so many different things now at the dollar store in terms of decor that you can just go nuts in that garden. And speaking of labeling and decor, they sell paint. And you're like, well, why would I put paint in my garden? Well, I like to decorate rocks, and these are my garden markers. So instead of actually putting like carrots and whatever, I have rocks painted, and then I've of course sealed them, and that's what marks my plants in my garden. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so just moving along, there's a couple more things here. Crazy ideas. Matchsticks. Yes, matchsticks. Wondering what those are about? I plant these under my peppers. It's, you know, an old wives' tale that the sulfur from your matchsticks, you plant a couple matchsticks in each hole before you plant, and it's supposed to help the peppers grow. Diapers. Now these are harder to come across, and you're probably like, what? At the dollar store. And they are usually a little bit more than just $1. They're usually a couple dollars. But people use diapers at the bottom, so you open them up, and essentially the bottom is super absorbent. So people put these at the bottom of their hanging baskets to help absorb some of the water and keep that moist, like the soil moist. So it's essentially to keep from the plants drying out all the time. So just put that diaper over there. And a couple of last things, you know, pre-done. You can get garden gloves at the dollar store. These ones are an Amazon find, but they have tons of different garden gloves and garden tools at the dollar store now. You can get little shovels, little handheld rakes. They have a bunch of different tools, like hand tools, for you to get at the dollar store now. Of course, those options were now, like, even just a few years ago, the options were very limited. They're really expanding on their garden aisle, and that's really cool to see. Another thing you might not think to use is cans that you can get at the dollar store, because you can put holes at the bottom of these, and essentially, like, this is a pretty big can. You can plant some herbs in there. Upcycle if you can. You don't always, like, you spend the dollar, you eat the food, and now you've got this container left over. Use it. And last but not least, and I'm going to do a totally separate video because I do have a lot of canning followers. A lot of people do follow me for my gardening, but there's a lot of people on here otherwise, and so I'm going to do a separate canning video on different canning supplies and different canning ideas that you can get at the dollar store. But speaking of gardening, we always have harvest and produce and everything to do with it afterwards. You can now get like preserving things at the dollar store. So you can actually get canning jars at the dollar store. You can get canning lids at the dollar store. I buy these at the dollar store. They're the shakers. So I make my own, like in here is dried green onions, and here is my own basil that I did last year that I crushed and made into powder. So you can get, and these ones of course are just like the shaker lids, so like your inside shaker lids. So I have rambled on for like 15 minutes about so many different things. There are so many different options. I highly suggest you get creative in the garden. When you pick something up, think of ways that you can use it. I'm sure there's so many things that I have missed. Like I said, there's a whole section on just trellising. You can use so many different things to trellis. So just get creative, think outside the box, utilize things you can at the dollar store because there's so many different options now. And yeah, if you have any other suggestions or comments or ways that you use things you find at the dollar store in your garden, please comment below. This is a community and I would love to share different ideas and maybe even snag some myself. So thank you so much for joining us again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.